Welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you've ever scrolled through your feed and spotted an ad that just seemed, way too good to be true, yeah, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're diving straight into a massive breaking lawsuit out of California that could literally reshape digital advertising as we know it. We're talking multi-billion-dollar allegations against Meta regarding scam ads on platforms like Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to walk you through exactly what's alleged in this new complaint, the mind-boggling amounts of money involved, and the global shockwaves this is sending through the whole tech world.
So, who actually profits when you click a scam? It sounds like a simple question, right? But it sits at the absolute dead center of this entire legal battle. We usually just assume the scammers themselves are making off with the cash, but this new lawsuit, it asks us to look right at the platform hosting the ad. It's all about the financial incentives driving this digital ecosystem we use every single day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, the Santa Clara lawsuit. Then we'll look at the multi-billion-dollar allegations, followed by a breakdown of how these scams supposedly operate. And finally, we'll zoom out to look at the global legal crackdown. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the Santa Clara lawsuit, Ground Zero in California. So Santa Clara County just filed this lawsuit today in state court, and they're doing it on behalf of all California residents. The absolute core of their argument here is that Meta is violating California's false advertising and unfair business practices laws by essentially profiting from scam ads. And they aren't just looking for a slap on the wrist either. The county is going after restitution for affected residents, civil damages, and a formal injunction, which basically means a court order demanding Meta stop these alleged practices entirely.
Now, it's absolutely crucial we look at both sides of the coin here. The county's complaint alleges that Meta largely tolerated this misconduct and even went as far as blocking scam reduction efforts just to save a buck. On the flip side, Meta's stance paints a completely different picture. While they haven't commented directly on this specific Santa Clara suit just yet, Meta has historically stated that they have dedicated enforcement teams actively pulling down scam content. Actually, just this past April, Meta filed its own lawsuits against advertisers running celebrity impersonation scams. So we've got two very different narratives colliding here.
Moving right along to Section 2, multi-billion-dollar allegations. Let's follow the money. $7 billion. According to the Santa Clara County lawsuit, that is the amount of annual revenue Meta allegedly earns from ads that bear clear, obvious signs of fraud. Just pause and think about the sheer scale of that number for a second. The lawsuit claims we aren't just talking about a minor oversight or, a few bad ads slipping through the cracks. They are alleging this is a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream. But wait, because the projections actually go even higher. $16 billion. This specific figure stems from a leak, internal documents that were first reported by Reuters back in November of 2025. According to those leaked docs, Meta's own internal projections expected roughly $16 billion of its 2024 annual revenue to come straight from advertising scams and banned goods. Crazy, right? Now, what's really interesting about this is when you put that $16 billion into perspective, the complaint, leaning on those leaked documents, suggests that a whopping 10% of Meta's total projected 2024 ad revenue was expected to come from these illicit sources. 10%. That is a massive, massive chunk of their financial pie, allegedly tied up in scams and banned goods. Okay, let's unpack Section 3, how the scams operate. We're going inside the alleged machine. The complaint actually breaks this alleged operation down into 3 pretty specific steps. Step 1, the county claims Meta allowed middlemen to sell ad accounts that were essentially bulletproof, protected against enforcement. Step 2, these ads then easily bypass the usual safety guardrails that are supposed to protect us consumers. But Step 3 is probably the most wild part of the whole thing. The lawsuit claims that the system actively targeted these scam ads at users who had already clicked on similar fraudulent links before. Basically, they're alleging the algorithm actively retargets past victims. No way, right? And that brings us to a really striking quote straight out of the Santa Clara County complaint. The filing alleges that Meta, quote, established internal guardrails to block scam reduction efforts that cost the company too much money, unquote. I mean, that is a bold claim. It strikes right at the heart of corporate prioritization, basically arguing that profit margins were allegedly put way ahead of user safety. Which leads us to Section 4, a global legal crackdown, because this is really just the tip of the iceberg. To get the full picture, we gotta look at the timeline. Back in November 2025, those internal documents get leaked by Reuters, which pretty much lit the fuse for all this litigation.
Fast forward to April 2026, and Meta is actively pushing back. They file their own lawsuits against celebrity impersonation scammers to show their enforcement muscles. But then, boom, just a month later in May 2026, this massive Santa Clara lawsuit hits. The momentum here is just snowballing.
And this isn't just a California thing. The momentum is completely global. Over the past 12 months, Meta has been hit with a literal wall of regulatory pressure from multiple continents at once. You've got a class action lawsuit in Washington, D.C. from the Consumer Federation of America. Over in the UK, the Online Safety Act team has launched a parallel inquiry. Australia's ACC, they're investigating too. And regulators in Japan are doing the exact same thing. It is a highly synchronized global squeeze on how Meta does advertising.
So where do we go from here? Well, bringing it back to the local lawsuit that kicked off today's explainer, the Santa Clara case is in the hands of the county counsel's office right now. They're expecting a scheduling order within 30 days. So we're not going to be waiting long at all to see exactly how the court plans to tackle these multi-billion-dollar allegations. And that leaves us with this final, really important question to chew on. As global watchdogs and local governments close in from all sides, how will digital advertising fundamentally balance these immense profits with actual user safety? Because this isn't just a story about one single tech giant. It's a massive structural question about the internet you and I use every single day. How these lawsuits play out could completely redefine how ads are served, who takes the blame for them, and ultimately, how safe we are when we hit click. Keep a close eye on this one, folks, because it is far from over. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.